Hey everyone, welcome to Lesson 5 of the MainStage Starter course. This is the final day. You've made it through all 5 days and you've learned what MainStage is, how to get your hardware connected, how to make sure that your live rig is reliable. You've learned how MainStage generates audio through channel strips, and how you can manipulate those channel strips by putting them in patches and connecting them to on-screen controls. It's been a lot of content. Now, if you've missed any of the lessons so far or you want to go back and review, then I recommend that you bookmark this page right here, because you can watch all 4 of the previous lessons. If you just scroll down a little bit, you can watch any of those 4 at any date in the future, or if you've missed any of them, then you can stop this video and review them right now before you dive into Lesson 5. But these videos aren't going to expire. You're going to be able to come back to this resource anytime and do a refresher or review if you need to, because I want to make sure that you don't miss out on any of this content, because these concepts are really important. And today's video topic is adding that extra bit of polish and precision to the sounds that you design in MainStage. It's a really practical video to make sure that your sound person likes what you're sending to them when you plug into a live sound system. It's not as hard to dial in great sounds with headphones on or with studio monitors in a controlled environment, but things can get a little bit more complicated when you introduce the variable of a live room with a sound system that might not be perfect, and you've got people in the room absorbing and affecting the sound. So I'm going to give you a couple of steps and concepts that you can learn and apply that are going to help make sure that all that work you do at home dialing in your sound isn't wasted when you get to your live venue. So I'm going to turn around, we're going to do a screen share and share these concepts with you. Let's take a look. Hey everyone, welcome to day 5 of the MainStage Starter course. We're here on screen share. As I was making my notes, I titled this section of my notes for this course, How to Sound Great. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to keep your sounds balanced, how to balance out EQ, a little bit about what EQ even means, and then how to save some of those presets that you make for EQ and things like that, so that you can come back and visit them later. So we're just going to dive right into it today. I have the same concert that we worked on at in Lesson 3 open today. It's available as a download from yesterday's lesson. So if you want to follow along, you can open that up. If you missed yesterday's lesson, go check that lesson out first, and you can grab the concert download while you're there. Double-click on the unzipped .concert file, or if you have MainStage already open, you can just hit File and choose Open, and you'll start out right here. So one of the big frustrations I ran into when I was first getting started with MainStage is I had a really great patch list with all sorts of different sounds. I thought things sounded pretty good. But then as soon as I plugged into my sound system at church or wherever I was playing, I always realized that my sounds didn't translate as well in the room, actually moving air, not just with headphones on, as they did at home. And there were a few factors that really played into that, and I had to really work hard with my sound team to help me sort of pinpoint the issues that I was running into time and time again. So the 2 main things that I ran into, I already mentioned today: balancing volumes and balancing EQ. Oftentimes my volume levels would be all over the place in MainStage, and it was because I didn't understand a couple really important principles about designing patches in general, and then also some quirks, things that you need to know about how MainStage presents some information to you. So every channel strip has a volume indicator. It's this green area right here. And this green number right above it represents the loudest that channel strip has been. So these channel strips are reaching a maximum level, or as they call it, a clip level of -6.3. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is kind of a general rule of thumb for how loud your channel strips individually should be at their loudest. And I try to never let any of my individual channel strips get any louder than about -3 decibels. Any louder than that, and you run the risk of some digital distortion or clipping being introduced to your channel strip. And that's not something you want to have to deal with. So at first, I thought that that's all I needed to do. I needed to make sure that the max volume level for all of these channel strips was about the same. So I would have seen,
that this piano only got up to -10, so I would have turned it up a little bit. Would have seen that the calming bells got, wasn't quite up there as loud as the dark pad. So I would have made those adjustments and then thought, yep, still not quite loud enough. I would have made tweaks until they were all about the same. I'd get pretty close and I thought that I was going to be good to go. But then I'd go play live and I'd realize that that just wasn't the case at all. See, the problem was, and this is really the big principle here that I'm getting at, there's a real difference between the actual volume or the meter volume that you see here in MainStage and what I like to call the perceived volume. See, the human ear doesn't hear all different frequencies the same. We tend to hear things that fall in sort of the normal human voice range with a lot more precision and sensitivity than we do lower notes, like bass notes. So lower frequencies can be a lot louder before they're perceived to be as loud as high notes. Even though they might be the same actual volume, oftentimes higher pitched or more shrill sounding sounds are perceived to be louder a lot sooner or at quieter decibel volumes than lower notes. So this is something that was huge for me to understand, and once I did, it really helped me to start to design more balanced patches. I realized that if I had a brighter sound, like this calming bells channel strip here, that it didn't need to be as loud. That I didn't need this clip level to match my other layers in order for it to still come through the mix. I wasn't listening with my ears, I was listening with my eyes, and that was not the right way to go about it. So you want to actually make sure that you're paying attention to how things are going to be perceived. So it's good to do this at home with headphones on, but then it's also really helpful to do this when you get to your venue, to actually plug into your sound system and say, how are these sounds translating? When this big bright pad is in the mix, is it coming across as too harsh because of all the high-end frequencies? Or is it not exciting enough? Is it too quiet and it's not actually adding the energy that I want it to? So not just paying attention to the actual volume, but using the volume faders to mitigate the way that those channel strips, those sounds will be perceived was a really big key for me. And then the second thing was understanding the way that different frequencies can build up when they're added together. And what I mean by that, I'm going to open up this channel EQ. I'm going to turn it on, turn all of these on by clicking the little power button, bypass button. I'm going to open up this first one here, and I'm going to turn the analyzer on. So I'm analyzing the output of the dark pad right now. This is the channel EQ. You can see that these are the frequencies that this channel strip is filling. This is the amount of space. So I can click and drag these dots around to boost or cut frequencies. You see how when I do this, it starts to get pretty boomy, starts to sound less pleasant. If I bring that down, it starts to have a little bit more clarity. What I didn't realize when I was first starting out is when I had multiple layered layered channel strips within a patch, oftentimes I was layering sounds that had really similar frequency ranges. And so the frequencies would overlap and actually combine together to create really muddy sounding patches. So I'd have a lot of patches that sounded like this. So when I was really playing with a lot of aggressiveness, with a lot of strength, all of that EQ in the same range, all that frequency in the same range, it sort of add together and end up being really muddy. So I realized that I could use the channel EQ, which is on a lot of the stock presets, but that you can add by default as well, using the channel EQ to carve out some of those spaces that they were really getting built up in. Actually made things seem a lot clearer and more powerful. So let's just say that this channel strip did not have the channel EQ on it. I could add it in by just hovering over an empty space in audio effects or by clicking the arrows on an existing effect if I wanted to replace it. And then going down to EQ and choosing channel EQ stereo. And that would open this up. Now this is the default that I have saved because I tend to like to cut the highs and the lows. But yours is probably going to look more like this. when you first start out. So here you can turn the analyzer on and see where the frequencies are. And you can even sweep one of these bands around to here, and then you can cut or boost to make it sit right in your mix. So realizing that not just could my volumes add up and could my volume be perceived as louder than it actually was, but that also the character and the harmonic frequency content of my individual channel strips could add together or cancel each other out to make things sound bigger than I wanted them to be, or more messy or muddy than I wanted them to be. Once I learned those two concepts, it really helped me to design better patches and better sounding presets. So I wanted to share that with you folks as you start to really branch out and work on designing sounds of your own. Now, EQ and volume levels are really big topics, and we could spend probably another 5-day course just talking about each of those two topics on their own. So please know that I'm skipping over so much useful content and knowledge that you're going to want to continue to explore these topics more on your own, so that you can become a more confident and better sounding sound designer. So, okay. Next, really quickly today, I just want to share something that I haven't shared with you yet, and it's a pretty fundamental concept in MainStage, but I haven't shared it with you because I've seen it cause a lot of MainStage users problems. We hinted at it yesterday towards the end of the video where I showed you how you could save a patch and then locate it later from within the patch library inspector, but I didn't really talk about it too much because I wanted to save it to the end of this course. So I'm going to hit the plus button here to add a new patch. When you have a patch selected, the inspector represents that patch. And you can see you have these 3 tabs down here: patch library, attributes, and tuning. Yesterday I showed you that any patches you save to the patch folder within Audio Music Apps are here under user patches. But what I didn't talk about is that there are also a ton of MainStage factory patch presets. If you go to Instrument, then you have, very similar to the channel strip library, tons and tons of presets that are ready to go. So you could go here to pad, and you could choose any of these pads, and it would load in, and you'd be ready to play. Grab a different one. Or we could grab a piano. So you might wonder, how is this different than the channel strip library? It's very similar. Most of the channel strip presets are the individual channel strips that make up these patch presets. The main difference between a patch preset and a channel strip preset is that a patch preset also includes oftentimes bus effects. If you're not familiar with what a bus effect is, it's a little bit of a heady concept at this level of where we're at in the course. But basically, you're able to set up a separate channel strip that you can send audio out and through. So if you wanted to place a reverb effect on 10 different channel strips across your concert, if you had 10 different patches and you wanted to use the same reverb on all of them, you could create a single reverb bus and then send all of your channel strips through that reverb bus. It can save you some processing power, it can save you some time. And then if you decided that you wanted to make a change to that reverb sound, you wouldn't have to do it 10 times, you could just do it once. So there are reasons to use buses, and we have some more information about some positive ways to use buses in our full-length MainStage Mastery course, and we've also got some more information in the free resources on our website. But the problem with buses, specifically that folks run into without realizing it, is when they use MainStage's factory patch library. These patch presets right here, some of them that I just sifted through. You can see that this particular channel strip has 2 buses. It's sending to bus 4 and bus 1. And when you have a patch that has bus sends, they automatically show up on that patch. When you go to a different patch, you won't see them anymore. But this is why buses are really tricky. When you go up to the concert level, you'll see all of these buses that have been added to our concert automatically. So whenever you load a patch preset from the MainStage factory presets that has buses attached, it automatically creates a concert level, right here, bus effect that patch requires. So just scrolling through those presets there, we have now 4 concert level bus effects. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, and for sometimes it isn't, but the main problem with all of the factory patches that MainStage includes is that they all, or mostly all, use a reverb plugin that's included with MainStage called Space Designer. Now, if you watch the CPU video that we referenced yesterday as your homework, then you already know that Space Designer is notoriously hard on your computer. It really uses a ton of memory and CPU processing power in order to deliver the reverb sounds that it does. Now, it's a great sounding reverb, but this is the very first thing I ask people to check for when they're having issues with their computer getting too hot, or with their performance being too slow, with their concerts crashing, with their entire computer shutting down. I ask them to go to the concert level and check for these instances of Space Designer. So this is why I really recommend not using the patch presets at all, because they add all of these buses to your concert that chew up a bunch of resources. Now, you could select them all at the concert level and just delete them by selecting them and hitting delete on your keyboard. So then you would go down here, and this grand piano patch library preset that we loaded, still sending to those buses, but those buses don't exist anymore. So you've saved yourself the CPU now, but you may as well have just loaded the channel strip library preset. So if we went to piano and chose Yamaha grand piano, we would be in literally the exact same place without having to do the work of deleting those concert level buses. So I generally recommend that folks just stick with the channel strip library unless you want to see how some of the MainStage presets actually use bus effects, because there are some cool effects that you can get. So if you're exploring and want to just kind of tinker around and see how the factory presets are put together, then I'd totally say go for it. Use the patch library and explore all of those sounds and see how the MainStage sound designers got the sounds that they did. But then if you're ever going to go and perform live with that concert afterwards, make sure that you go to the concert level and delete those buses if you're at all worried about CPU performance, and making sure that your concert isn't going to push your computer too hard.
All right, everyone, you made it to the end of the MainStage starter course. Day 5, graduation day. Now here's the thing, before you exit out of this video, this course, I've tried to really cover the basics that you need to know to avoid most of the frustrations and troubleshooting issues that I ran into when I was first getting started with MainStage. But this is truly, truly just the tip of the iceberg of what you can accomplish in MainStage. So I hope that you will keep learning, that you won't let this be the extent of the growth that you go through with MainStage. And to help you and to let you know that there's more that you can do, check it out. Tomorrow, I'm going to send you a bonus lesson. So surprise, day 6 of the MainStage starter course. And in tomorrow's video, I'm going to share with you a resource that I really wish I would have had available to me on day 1 when I first downloaded MainStage. It's going to help you fill in the rest of that iceberg and really help you understand what you can accomplish with MainStage. It's going to get you sounding great and save you a lot of time, a lot of trial and error, and a lot of work. So I hope you'll check your email tomorrow at the same time for day 6 of the MainStage starter course. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day.